Well, I'm delighted to be able to welcome to this session Maroun Ishac, the Director of Business Development, Retail Solutions for Intel, Jay Hutton, the CEO of Vsblty, and David Norton, the Chief Global Technology Officer for Hogarth. A very warm welcome. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you. David. Welcome.
Well, the integration on off and online in China is significantly ahead of the rest of the world. And that really does come into play. And you start to really see the advantages of that integration in real sharp focus during the 11/11 period. Now, our panel of leading experts here will be discussing the concept of the store as a medium and its significance to the realization of the mix of this sort of on and offline integration. So let me give you a little bit of context to start us off with. There are really four strategic drivers for the store as a medium, and all of those four are underpinned by trends that existed prior to our COVID experience, if you looked hard enough, but very much accelerated and turbocharged by our collective COVID experience right across the world. And those four trends are these, increase in digitization and the consumer's willingness not just to research digitally, but also to purchase across all categories. And clearly at the height of the lockdown, we as consumers on many occasions had little choice but to do that or not purchase at all. The physical store needing to really better reflect what consumers really wanted and to make the experience significantly more enjoyable and much more personal. We really did need, and we now need to do it even more, give the consumer a really good reason to shop out rather than to shop in. And of course, a business model imperative to really re-engineer the overall retail economics, which have been creaking for many years. And the fourth and final trend is to better have a mix of both the digital and the physical space in a very seamless way and a seamless flow between the two of them in both directions. Now, it's no coincidence that we're speaking about this in the middle of the Alibaba Global Shopping Festival, with Alibaba being the founder of the concept of new retail, which has been driving that whole end-to-end digitization of the entire retail supply chain with much success in China, and had quite an influence around beginning to have quite a lot of influence around the world for that strategy. Now, it's our belief, all of us on this panel, that the store of a medium is going to play a really important role in enabling those four trends. And we're going to explain a little bit more about why and about how, and I suppose most importantly, why the time is now during this session. Now, Maroun, David, Jay, anything you would like to add to the setting of the scene context?
This is a great opportunity, David, whether it be it for the retailers and or the brands, to invest in the right digital infrastructure in the store, to establish the store as yet another channel. And we believe the store has an opportunity to become potentially the most effective channel. That is where the moment of the truth is. That is where be it the retailer and or the brand have an opportunity to truly influence the consumer when they are inside of the aisle or in front of a digital shelf. We talked about the moment of truth. So we see a tremendous opportunity, if we do it right, for the store to become a very powerful media for both brands and retailers to influence the shopper, the consumer.
Jay.
You made four important points, I suppose, properly characterized as pillars to this new initiative. I'm going to speak about the second one, which is the actual physical store being reimagined. We have a tendency in our marketplace to think only in terms of what's in it for the brands or the retailers, but there's a windfall of opportunity here for consumers to identify stores now as a place where they can seek and secure education on products, when they can understand and engage with the brand in a more intimate and meaningful way, the brand benefits from that, the consumers benefit from that. And I suppose as an industry, if we're able to drive consumers to understanding their store and experiencing their store in a more meaningful way, everybody wins. So I think that's a really important pillar.
David Norton, does the concept of having a new medium excite you or frighten you?
No, it definitely excites me. I think as Hogarth and as a content producer and a content deliverer, this again is an exciting new channel for us. And to actually be able to get right into the heart of stores, which is something yet we haven't, and to truly bring personalized content, to make that a reality now is at the heart of what we're wanting to do. So no, truly an opportunity.
Well, let's chunk this down into smaller bite-sized pieces. Jay, I suppose it's slightly ironic that e-commerce offers a granular level of deep insights and deep behaviors. I mean, you can chunk it up if you like, but you can get to very granular levels. And it's ironic that the stores currently don't have that depth of capability. So what are the challenges now and the gaps for bricks and mortar? Perhaps you can sort of break those down, the benefits of having the ability within the context of the store as a medium, the other advantages that brings for that level of insights to be generated within the store environment, both for the retailer and clearly for manufacturers and CPG brands in particular.
Well, this is going to sound, I suppose, as an editorial comment, and it's really not meant to be. There's actually more meaningful data that can be drawn from real audiences, real people in real locations, as opposed to profile data and metadata that can be achieved through the visitation of websites and e-commerce locations on the web. I'm not diminishing the value of that. In fact, it is that journey that has inspired this journey in many regards. But the idea here to close the gap between what is collected online and what is collected offline, offline being the rough equivalent to store, and creating more data points in store so that the visitor can actually get more meaningful engagements with brand. There are a dozen data points in the store right now collected, and there's hundreds when the same person visits a web presence. So the benefit of allowing for more data points to be connected at the point of sale is A, accuracy. I'm actually counting physical people. I'm not counting a visit to a website which may or may not be attended to or paid attention to while the website is up. I can actually see when people walk away. I can see when people look. I can see how long they look. I can see if it's a woman looking, a man looking, a 25-year-old or a 35-year-old. I don't want to go too deep into it, but the point is that the more granular that data is, and remember, as Maroun said earlier, this happens at the moment of truth. This happens precisely when decisions are being made about product selection, product education. All those things become viable and appropriate channels of communication to the consumer. And the opportunity and the challenge for our industry, and this is a challenge for Hogarth as well as this for those of us that are technology providers, make that content experience meaningful and valuable to the consumer, and everybody wins. On every metric they win.
Maroun.
At the totally agree. At the end of the day, for us to establish the store as a medium, it's all about engaging the consumer and remarkable experiences. And here's the opportunity. And again, having David Norton and Hogarth on this call is so critical because they play a foundational role in ensuring that we deliver these remarkable experiences. At the end of the day, from a brand perspective, we need to move the hearts and mind of the consumer. I mean, the whole idea behind a medium is to sell the essence, the story of the brand, to move the heart and mind of the consumer. And unless we deliver experiences that are relevant, engaging, remarkable, they resonate with the consumer, collectively, we're all not gonna do a good job. The consumer at the end of the day will decide whether the store is an effective medium or not, and it's incumbent on all of us, as ecosystem partners, that we work together to deliver these remarkable experiences. And of course, technology and AI is going to play a very, very big role in enabling all of this.
Well, we'll come back a little bit later to understand a little bit about the significance of what you just said in terms of AI and data. On the other side of this particular coin, we're seeing a number of online brands, who've grown up being digital only, and become very successful in their own rights. Allbirds is probably a really good example, embarking on creating a series of physical stores, not just in their home markets, but across the world. They clearly recognize that there is an absolute need for having a physical presence, a place where consumers can come, touch and feel the products, and create amazing experience. What role does the store as a medium play to help deliver that type of an experience?
Yeah, I can take that question, David. We live in a world of one-click access where the distribution of product is really not the issue anymore. When you can efficiently ship any product to anyone, anywhere, the question of where you buy it is really now not that critical. In other words, in the long term, we believe that the sales of products in the store will simply ride on the back of remarkable experiences. They cannot be any more the primary strategic purpose or metric for success in the store. And a number of the world's largest retailers are really struggling with this reality because their knee-jerk reaction has been to simply downsize or marginalize the role of the store. We're starting to hear the word or the buzzword of omnichannel. Basically, we're all assuming and deciding that all of the channels now act as one. And I would argue that risk oversimplifying what is really happening in the world of retail. We believe, and that's what you alluded to, David, what's really evolving is a new and far more complex role for the store. And just like what you mentioned, some online brands are starting to affirm that. Each of them are starting to create their own physical stores. Companies like Warby Parker. They recognize that in order to fully actualize their brands, they need to animate a physical presence, create a remarkable experience for their consumer, not necessarily to move product, but more critically, to move the heart and mind of the consumer, to sell their idea, to sell the essence and value of their brand. And all of which, by the way, have been viewed as the role of media, which brings us to, the critical point, which is, the store as a medium, that, the primary role of the store moving forward, and this is a big hypothesis for us, right? And we have to validate it, is not necessarily to sell product, but rather to deliver the most powerful experience possible, to create brand affinity, to drive trust and allegiance between the consumer and the brand and retailer. Now, none of which may result in immediate or store-specific revenue recognition. And again, I'm not saying that stores will not sell products anymore. Of course, all of them will, but product sales in the future will simply ride on the back of remarkable experiences. And more importantly, the store as a medium will now be held entirely to new standards for generating immediate measurable sales, not just merely impressions or eyeballs or just awareness, but rather measurable conversion, attribution, and brand affinity. And we'll cover later on, hopefully, the role of technology and AI in terms of enabling all of that in real time.
Now, Jay, given the number of different ways in which you can communicate via this digital technology to the consumer in the store, what role do you think the combination of those ways are going to have in being able to tell really effective storytelling across the customer journey within the store?
I think this is the magic of people like Hogarth. At the end of the day, we provide platform capability, measurement capability. We use computer vision to identify persons and measure their response and loyalty and engagement with brand. But on those surfaces, you can create content which either engages or doesn't engage. And the good news is, if we swing and miss, we can quickly rehabilitate ourselves and move into a place where we've got better content. So I don't want to maybe overstate this, but the content is critical. Immersive, education-based, engaging the customer. Because at the end of the day, if the customer and the brand connect at an emotional level, the brand is prepared to do almost anything for that level of commercial engagement with their customer. The retailers have for years, although probably they would argue they don't do this, but for years have been in between the consumer and the brand. The internet has shown us that a relationship can exist directly between the two. So how is it that the physical store could promote that? How is it the physical store could not just promote it, but expedite the relationship between the brand and the consumer? I'm very hopeful that incredible creative talent could make that happen. And I think that's a full expectation of the marketplace at the moment.
Now, David Norton, you just heard that the creative is going to be king in all of this. The technology is the enabler. The artificial intelligent agents are going to be the thing that gives it its smartness. But at the end of the day, it's the creative that is going to do the magic. How easy or difficult is it going to be able to serve up to a consumer in a store programmatically, instantly, a much more personalized message depending on what we know about them?
You're right, David, it is a challenge. And what we do know is that creative commands a really pivotal role in the performance of a campaign. If you look, we estimate now that only about 3% of ads are addressable. I mean, that's an enormous opportunity to be had in this space. What I like to use as an example is, imagine if you could programmatically address a cooler in a store based on the sensors on that cooler that are getting the reactions Jay talked about earlier. Is it male, female? Are they smiling? Are they unhappy? Or temperature, etc. Imagine, having the infrastructure in place that takes you all through that, and how can you dynamically serve the content, the creative, directly to that into the store. So I think you've got to understand the frameworks, to your point. You've got to understand all of these different component parts. And I think, again, that's both a challenge and an opportunity. And I think, again, with Jay and Maroun working with these companies, Hogarth, we feel as though we're best placed that we can work together as a triumvirate. And I think media plays a very important part in this. I mentioned programmatic. Creative and media truly has to come together right now. From the outset, by the way, that's where it creates the opportunity. We're very good at doing stuff after the event and producing data based on campaigns after they've shown. I think what this allows us to do is to get right ahead of that, and, as I say, address things up front. And I think that's where the true creative quality will play a big part.
Now, you've all talked about having to work with other parts of the system to make it work. This feels like this is going to be an ecosystem play, as opposed to one company individual being able to do everything. What's, Maroun, the biggest friction that you see establishing the store as a medium in terms of that ecosystem, and how are you addressing the industry in order to solve that?
Yeah, actually, that is a great question, David, because if you were to look at some of the key frictions that made it really hard for retailers, the physical store, to adopt consumer-facing technologies at scale, technologies like intelligent shelves, intelligent end caps, kiosk, and these are technologies that would have facilitated amazing experiences in the store. And they've been with us for a long time. I've been working on intelligent shelves for at least 6 years. But if we were to dig deeper at this problem, you will find that the two biggest frictions have been the lack of business model. And by that, I mean, who pays the capex for that digital shelf?
Well, that's always where the rubber meets the road, isn't it? Who is going to pay for it?
That it's a great question, and if we don't understand the answer, if we don't solve the answer to that question, 6 years from now we'll be asking the exact same question, right? Now, and there's a second element to that question, David. If you were to pay the capex, if we were to solve the capex issue, can we make the financials work? And by that I mean, again, can we generate enough revenue at that shelf that justifies the investment? Now, I honestly believe unless we solve these two questions, we're going to be faced with a future where the retailers is going to invest in their human capital to deliver that remarkable experiences that we talked, that David Norton and Jay talked about. Now, retailers, I believe, absolutely should continue to invest in their human capitals, but consumers, when they are in the store, they want to activate all of their senses. Hence, why it's really critical to animate a physical presence with amazing digital experiences. And now let me give you some good news. I believe we have a line of sight to solve these two frictions, namely the business model and financial questions. We're seeing renewed interest by third parties, third-party financing firms, to put that intelligent edge infrastructure in the store and monetize it by the advertisement revenue. And we're gonna, and these edge compute platforms, be it the digital shelf, the digital end cap, is going to be the mean of delivering these remarkable experiences in the store when that consumer is actually at that moment of truth inside of the aisle or at the end cap. And so I believe we have a line of sight, David, to solve that. I believe if we can validate at scale that we can generate the revenue from advertisement that convinces more third-party finance firms to really bring their investment into this digital infrastructure, you're going to see an explosion of consumer-facing technologies in the store, because that's what will fund it.
Now, Jay, we've heard a lot this week from many different people about the significance and importance of artificial intelligence. From your perspective as a technology provider in this space, everybody seems to think that artificial intelligence is some sort of holy grail. It's going to solve every single problem. To what extent is the store as a medium also going to rely on artificial intelligence to create the smartness to enable the insights and activation on those insights to take place in real time?
Well, I mean, I guess the first initial response to that is artificial intelligence is not a replacement for natural intelligence.
Thank goodness for that.
Yeah, we don't get to shut off our brains just because some computer is collecting data for us. But what we do need to do, and this is a real challenge, and in our company, this consumes, the 28-year-old data scientists that sit and pour through the data, and because there's tons of data that comes, and the data itself is benign, inert, kind of useless. And when applied, and this is the natural intelligence piece, when applied to the context of what's meaningful to a brand and to a retailer, and then correlated across multiple sets of data, point of sale data, mobile attribution data, all that data connected together and correlated, that's when the magic happens. So, and it's easy to overlook it. and think, okay, well, this is just computer vision. I identify when there's a male in the aisle, identify when there's a female in the aisle, and I trigger content accordingly. Well, that's interesting, but it's only a modest piece of the story. The ability to understand sales velocity in real time and connect that to the impressions and the data, the audience data that's happening in real time, understand, and from a meaning and insights point of view, engagement with brand on mobile platforms, and then correlating that to point of sale. It's easy to overlook the complexity of that. But to Maroun's point, because I don't want this to be lost before I finish my comment here, it makes me think about a guy that was setting up a radio station in Kansas in the 20s. Thinking about, okay, how many commercials can I sell to the local farm and feed category and to the car dealer and to the guy that sells tractors and wheelbarrows? And this is exactly the same economics that we're doing right now. So part of what we're doing, and the reason why the economic back of this thing is broken, is we're now for the first time understanding what dense and rich data coupled with impression level media value is as a correlated compound. We now understand that for the first time. And we're now able to sell to multiple stakeholders the meaning and benefit of that. And although that wasn't specifically the question you asked for me, all that is powered by this underpinning of artificial intelligence, which helps us understand how consumers engage and helps us expedite that intimacy that I've spoken about a couple of times.
Now, where do you all see this development going in the future and evolving over the next sort of several years? Is this going to end up being a media in its own right? Is it going to be a category? Is it going to be a business size, a size that large corporations can embrace as well? Paint us the picture of the next few years and how all this is going to play itself out. Maroun,
yeah. So David, to the extent that we solved the two frictions that I alluded to earlier, namely the business model and establishing advertisement as a financial revenue, for the store. I believe for a number of years, a number of business models in the stores have been ripe for digital disruptions. The shelf, the end cap, signs in the store, any surface in the store has the potential to be digitized. Now, again, we have an incredible role to play here collectively. The Hogarth, the WPPs of the world, the Intels, CV computer vision companies like Vsblty. If we do our job right and we establish efficacy for the spend in the store, whether it's the advertisement spend or the trade spend in the store, I honestly predict that you're going to see massive investment in building that digital infrastructure in the store, because I truly believe the store could potentially become the most effective channel for advertisement spend and including trade spend. I could easily see 20% of the overall ad spend being spent in the store. That is hundreds of billions of dollars a year.
Well, we could carry on, but I'm afraid the grim reaper of time has paid us a visit. So I'd like to finally thank Maroun Ishac, the Director of Business Development for Retail Solutions for Intel, Jay Hutton, CEO of Vsblty, and David Norton, Global Chief Technology Officer for Hogarth. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.